Jimmy for a good walk, and then we found a plant, and I got to deal with that plant, etc., etc. I'm not going to go into that. So, when we talk about gardening, and I'm not talking about giving you like plant advice and whatnot. I'm talking about the other side of it. What do we get from the garden? Like, what is the benefit to us from gardening? Because absolutely, there are some people that see gardening as a chore. Okay, they do not enjoy it. They don't care to know about it, and that's totally fine. I absolutely get that. I feel the same way about mechanics. Other people love fixing up vehicles and taking them apart and doing their own engine work. So we all have different interests. But I'm going to imagine if you're tuning in and watching us and you follow along with our podcast and that kind of stuff, that you probably don't see gardening as a chore. So we get physical activity out of it. We get to move. We get step counts in. We lift heavy things. We're bending and we're twisting, and hopefully we're doing all of that correctly based upon, the correct movements. We don't want to be lifting with our backs and jarring things. We lift with our knees, all of that good stuff. But regardless, we're getting physical activity. We get sunshine. We get fresh air. Any day that I'm gardening, I sleep better that night. Same as any day I'm out hiking in the mountains. I sleep better that night. As opposed to days where I get off work and then I have to go watch Harry's rugby game, and then after that I got to go grocery shopping, and I get home and I'm just like, ugh, like it doesn't feel like I've done anything. This is something for us. We have mental health benefits. It's proven being around plants reduces anxiety, reduces stress. It elevates cognitive ability. I'll tell you this one really fun because it was a study they did. They took two groups of people. There was 100 people in the test group. They sat them in a lecture hall and they give them a presentation on something that nobody had any experience on. They then broke them in half. So 50 in this group, 50 in this group. The 50 in that group were then sent to work. They had a job to do. The other 50, they sent for a walk in an arboretum, which is a tree museum, an outdoor area. After 3 hours, they brought them back and they had to write a test on the presentation. With not one exception, the 50 that had walked through the arboretum scored better. And that was because they were in a relaxed state. They weren't thinking about another task at hand. Oh, now I have to focus on this. I'm going to forget about that. People walking through the arboretum nobody knew that was going to be a test. So they might not have been thinking about that. They might have been looking at the birds and the trees and the plants. But their brain was relaxed. It allowed their body to relax. So it increased their ability to actually perform. Plants boost creativity. Gardening boosts creativity. We're out there, we look at things, we get inspired by color palettes, by heights, by sun versus shade, by what's happening, what elements can I bring into the garden, and even more. There are so many more, but those are like, I find, some of the big hitters. And I always bring this up, I always will. When I say gardening can reduce stress, anxiety, and depression, in no way, shape, or form is it the cure-all. It's a tool in the toolbox, much like going to see your doctor, talking amongst your peers, medication, counseling, hiking, whatever. Gardening and plants are a tool in the toolbox. They're just a part of our mental health well-being. So I always like to mention that. Gardening with benefits. So anybody who is looking at the PowerPoint, that photograph, I can tell you exactly, is from 1976 from Newcastle, and that's me.
Wait, hold on. Hold on, I didn't know that this was happening. Look at this!
That's me and my dad. My dad is hosing me down.
Okay, can you hold it up for our Instagram? Sorry, I didn't know this was happening. Look at that! Baby Colin!
So that was me in 1976. That's how long I've been in a garden.
That's so cute! I can't get over that. That's adorable.
Yeah. I've still got that look on my face to this day. So why do we garden with family? I garden with Harry, with Jenny, with all three of us. Jimmy is out there gardening with us. I mean, he doesn't do anything working breed. He normally wants to play with sticks or lie down or sleep in the shade. But what we do is it fosters interactions. So a lot of times we lead busy lives. We're doing a lot of things. Everybody is there. And our interactions amongst our families can become very perfunctory. Are you getting the groceries? Did you do this? Hey, can you pick this up? And then maybe we sit down and we watch television and we relax or play a board game. In the garden, it tends to be more organic. Okay, you're kind of talking and you're like, oh my God, did you see that rabbit? Oh, look, a robin. And we're more engaged with what's going on around us. So it allows those more natural, spontaneous interactions. It's a change of pace. You're working in the garden. Normally your hands are dirty. You're not looking at your phone. You're not tied up with what's going on. You're not listening to the news. You're just gardening. Involvement. We all get involved. So we go, oh, well, we're not going to grow peppers. Mum doesn't like peppers, but mum loves tomatoes. Let's do extra tomatoes. And you like beans, so we'll make. And we're all engaging and we're sharing our likes and dislikes and we're learning about it. Playtime, right? You got little kids, let them play. I can garden and they can play at the same time. They can come over and help me garden and then they can leave and go play again. Fosters curiosity. Okay, kids go, ooh, what does that vegetable taste like? What does that flower smell like? You know, what's that cool bug crawling through the ground? Builds education. Okay, and by that, what I mean is that comes hand in hand with curiosity. What is that bug? Let's find out what that bug is. Learn about spiders and oh no, that's a bee. It's not going to hurt you. That's a wasp. Let's give them some space, and that's how we can play with it. It strengthens the bonds. Okay, because once you've been gardening, I learned this with Harry at a young age. I'd come home from work and Harry had already been home from school for a couple of hours and he drew out a garden plan. He'd hand drawn what the front of the house looked like and the beds and what he wanted to do. And we bonded over that. We talked about it and I'd say, oh, I don't think that's going to work, buddy. We get too much shade, but what about this? And we do it together. And gardening, and even for us as adults, not just for the family, but it boosts everybody's self-esteem and confidence. Okay, most people I know when they've been gardening, they love to show you photographs. They love to tell you what they've done. They feel better about themselves, and I find that amazing. And then kids specifically. So there's another picture of me in the PowerPoint, and this is me learning to water. Look at that amazing job on watering. 10 out of 10. But why kids specifically? It encourages healthy eating habits. Nothing better than seeing kids picking food, picking peas, beans off the vine and just chomping them. Pulling a tomato and taking a bite. That is fantastic and it's giving them that love of veggies. Teaches responsibility. You have to go and water the garden. You have to weed the garden. You have to do this. They learn that there is something they have to do to get those rewards. Gets kids dirty. It's healthy. It's healthy to get soil under your hands. It's healthy to be in the garden. It's healthy to come in with grass stains and soil stains and dyes because you're scrunching a sunflower and you've got yellow and black all over your hand. That's a good thing. These are good things. Exercise. Kids running around in the garden and having fun. A love of the outdoors. Okay, we all, and I'm not going to speak personally because Harry does love being outside. I'm not taking responsibility. Everybody has different personalities, but a lot of times now you always see those memes. And again, I'm not speaking if it's true. Oh, kids just want to be inside on their video games. I wanted to be inside on my video games or with my Star Wars figures when I was a kid. Of course I did. But when it was garden time or go for a walk time or a hike time, I had my shoes on and I was raring to go because I had that love of the outdoors. Positive early core memories. There's two that I just showed you in those pictures for me. Okay, they make me smile. It was a memory with my dad. My dad, he didn't care if I sprayed him. It was part of learning. It was fun. Builds a better understanding of nature. Brandy and I have talked about this. Wasps and bees.
Yeah.
A lot of people lump them together. The amount of times I see people that are like, oh, I'm terrified of wasps. And I go, well, that's a bee.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Are you scared of that? Because I can tell you why you shouldn't be. And I learned that at a very young age, how to identify it. I learned plant names at a very young age because my dad would share that with me. It's going to teach patience for everyone. It teaches kids patience because they have to understand how plants grow. It's going to teach you patience because you've got to understand that kids in the garden. I've mentioned this before. I'm not great to garden around for everybody because I can be a little methodical. You put a kid there and I'm like, okay, that's not the order we do things, but I'm gonna give you a free pass. You get a pass on this one. Gardening is science. That's why I had those elementary school kids here. It was part of their science curriculum, so that they're learning. They're learning photosynthesis, and they're learning growth. They're learning that a cactus and an orchid are plants. They require the same elements, but in vastly different ways. Um, that's what we're bringing to this is we're showing them all this. Builds motor skills. Holding a tool, okay? Give a shovel to a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old as opposed to a 5 or a 6-year-old, as opposed to a 10-year-old. Now give it to that 10-year-old who learned how to hold it when they were 2. You're going to see differences because they learn how to manipulate it, and that helps them out with all of the other things they're going to do, mainly the video games, which is very important. Sensory development. When you're in a garden, you use all 5 senses. You smell the flowers, you're looking, you're getting all the vibrant colors, the smells, the difference between, this flower smells. Some people love the smell of tomatoes, other people hate it. Okay, the feeling, the touch, like this is a nice leaf, that one, it stung me, I didn't like that. So all of those things are gonna teach the kids what to be aware of. It stimulates their little brains. And it's empowering for them. They can look back on a garden too. Harry he used to bring his mum out if she wasn't gardening with us and point out everything he'd done. He wouldn't mention what I'd done, which was 90% of the job. Sometimes he would take credit for what I had done, but that's okay. I used to let that slide. Yeah, you're like totally Team Harry on that one. Age appropriate, okay? And what I mean by this is that kids of any age can be in the garden. I was 2 years old in those pictures, running around in the garden. No, nothing was expected of me. Just be out there. That was it. That was the level of expectation up until I got, into my teens, and then the expectation changed. Cut the grass. So any age can be in the garden, and it's awesome to see that. We have to have the tasks set out. Okay, we need to know, and I'm going to talk a little bit after this about various tasks for age groups, but in no way, shape, or form is this delineated. I'm not saying, if I say this is kind of suitable for a 3-year-old, and you're like, oh, my 3-year-old is way more advanced than that, fantastic. Okay, no problem. Harry's been gardening with me since he was, 7 years old. He was more advanced than other kids at 7 because I held him to a higher standard. I was teaching him other things. So there is no right or wrong when it comes to this. There's no such thing as the average child. Okay, every kid is different. Some kids might be way more interested in the power tools. Some might be way more interested in yellow flowers, and others might be way more interested in veggies, and all of them are right. Okay, that's what they're gravitating to. And the tasks can be anything from having a buddy in the garden, just somebody hanging out with you so you're not getting bored and making it feel like a chore, all the way up to, okay, I need my garden raked, I need it weeded. That's your chore for this week, that's your task. And you give it. So playing around with that, what I found is kids from 0 to 2, just companions. They're just buddies. They're just garden buddies. Let them make a mess, and they'll teach you patience. And here's the best thing. I get it. You organize your house, you come in, and the kids have dragged all the cushions off the couch, and they've built a fort, and there's blankets everywhere, and you're like, I just cleaned this up. Out in the garden, who really cares? It's easy to clean up, crank a leaf blower, pass a quick rake, just leave it. It's just soil on the lawn. Who really cares? Take the kid, plunk them in a bath, you're good to go. So it allows us to learn, this is how they're learning. It lets the kids make a mess. Or they're just hanging out in their little baby rocker thingy in the shade, and you're just outside with them, getting them some fresh air. Hopefully then they take a nap so that mom and dad can take a nap, because kids are an absolute nightmare at that age. That's my perception anyway. Ages 2 to 4, they can start choosing flowers, okay? And they're probably going to choose based on color. They're not going to be thinking about sun and shade. How big does it get? Is it good for pollinators? They're like, I like yellow. And they're probably going to grab the flower. And that's fine too. They can start planting big seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. They're great for kids. They're big enough that they can hold one seed in their hand. We're not trying to do little tomato or pepper seeds. They can pick flowers. You can let them go out and pick a flower, and they'll walk around holding that flower. Every kid, most kids I should say, but I used to do it, and nearly every kid I know has done it, has picked dandelions to give their mum. And every mum is like, oh my God, these are the most beautiful flowers ever. Jenny used to do it. These are the most beautiful flowers I've ever got. I'm like, I bought you roses for Valentine's Day. You said they were the most beautiful then.
I think
What?
that's such a nice idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I absolutely. If flowers get knocked over, I remember we had a peony, and the peony got smashed down, and it was on the peony ring, but it broke. Cause I think it was torrential rain, wind. I honestly can't remember. So I went out with Harry, and we cut them all, and then he had a vase, and he put the water in the vase, and then I give them to him. He was too young to use cutters at that time, and I give them, and he arranged them, and he give peonies to his mum.
Aw, there's an idea.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
He picked the flowers to give to somebody and made somebody happy, which again fosters that relationship. So there's so many things. Let them look at bugs. Kids love to explore. They'll be in there like a dirty shirt, and they'll be the first to tell you there's an aphid. They may not say there's an aphid, but they'll say, look at this cool bug, and you go, oh my God, that is really cool. Or you go find a ladybird. Kids have ladybirds on them.
Yeah. We just got some.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the ladybirds. I know people come and they buy ladybirds just to release them with their kids.
Yeah.
Don't even have aphids. They're just like, I want my kid to have ladybirds. Yeah. Ages 5 to 8, they can start deadheading. They can pick the dead flowers off. They can choose what veggies they want. If your kid tells you they want to grow beans, I highly recommend getting beans. Even if it turns out they don't like them, they'll probably try them, and they will try to like them. Because they grew them, they picked them, they're part of it. So make them integral in there. Harvest berries, picking raspberries. And a lot of times, they're going to be 1 in the bucket, 3 in my mouth. I have no problem with that. They can plant seedlings. What I used to love at that age is sometimes my hands can be big and clunky if it's really fine. Harry had little delicate fingers, so he was easier to get the seedlings out without damaging them. So you teach them how to do that. Turning soil, okay? Give them a little cultivator, a little hand cultivator like this, and just let them, doesn't matter if they work the same, 3 square foot, and they're just doing that, they're working the soil. Again, they're learning. They're developing that. I'm not going to try and put that up there, otherwise I see that being a disaster waiting to happen. They can start watering accurately. You can start explaining that they need the water at the roots, how to use a watering can, that kind of thing. So those are good tasks up to that age. But again, if you're like, oh, no, my kid, I don't want them doing that just yet, or they're more advanced, they can do that chore that a 5-year-old, you do you. I am not telling you how to parent or what to do. I'm giving guidelines. That's it, like I do with anything. Ages 9 to 12, okay? They can help with trees and shrubs. What I mean by that is they can help pick them out. They can select perennials. At that age, they're going to know the difference between what an annual and a perennial is. They can start thinking maybe about pollinators. They can start thinking about what fruits they like and what fruit trees and shrubs they want. They can help with weeding. Everybody loves weeding. But I'm telling you, right, we learn to dislike things by other people. You pretend that weeding is the most fun thing and you're turning the soil and it's so good to rip out a weed. The kids are going to be like, yeah, that's what I'm going to... you got to trick them. Transplanting. Let them learn how to dig out a plant, okay? This shovel, not as tough as a metal one, but I could absolutely use this to transplant. I've used kids' tools before.
Have you really?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of times they're lighter, they're easier, and quite often they're smaller, so if you have a tighter area...
Yeah.
Right? You take, do I have a shovel behind me? I don't. But you take a regular shovel, it's this much bigger, it's heavier, it's wider. This, I could easily pop annuals out of the ground and move them if I had to.
Huh.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. You got leaves amongst a shrub. Look at that little rake. Okay? Kids' tools are wonderful. More accurate to get in there. 9 to 12, maybe you can start trusting them with some small pruners and they can cut back perennials. Okay, at that age, they're probably doing craft work. They're probably used to using scissors. So maybe that's where they're going with that now. Ages 12 to 15, let them plant their own section of the garden. Okay, buy them some veggies and let them run with it. Let them learn. Let them take care of it themselves. Give them some guidelines. And they'll get it. Plant seeds in nursery plants. So you can give them that area and buy them some spinach seeds. They're going to be better with those smaller seeds now. They don't have to have the bigger ones. At that age, I got a picture somewhere on my phone. That's a picture I should have used instead of the one I did of Harry, and I couldn't find safety glasses for him, so I give him swimming goggles. And he's got swimming goggles on, and he's got the lawn trimmer, and he's trimming the grass. Now, the trimmer is bigger than him. He was scalping the grass. He was making a mess of it, but he was doing it, and he was loving it. He felt so big. Taking his picture, he is so proud that he was doing it. And then ages 15 and up, maybe they can build their own planter, get them some lumber, get them some corner units, let them put in some screws, use nails and a hammer. They can be cutting grass. They can learn how to fertilize. Spring cleanup. I want all the leaves done, turn the beds, or fall cleanup, cut back all of the perennials, pass a mower, mulch the leaves into the grass, all kinds of things. But they're getting older. They can do all of these things better.
Work at a garden center.
Work at a garden center. There you go.
That's how I did it.
Yep. Yeah, you started at 15, didn't you? Yep. There you go. Yeah, you were like, I could either learn to cut grass or work at a garden center. I am so looking forward. To the day where I come to your house and I'm drinking a mojito with Brad and you're cutting the lawn for the...
Just for anybody who doesn't follow the Helpful Gardeners podcast, I've never mowed a lawn.
Yeah, that's where that joke, not a joke, but that's where that story comes from.
Yeah.
We were talking about certain things, and Brandy admitted she'd never cut a lawn in her life.
Yeah.
And I have not been able to let it go. Basically, is the takeaway from that. And this year, Brandy and Brad just bought a home, and it comes like a lot of homes with a lawn.
Yeah.
And Brandy is going to cut a
It's
lawn.
happening.
Yeah. So I'm very excited for that.
What a great segue into this part.
Yeah. It was totally natural. It wasn't just a random digression. What about the adults? Okay, we're out there. I've already talked about what the kids are getting out of it. What do we get out of it? Okay, learns to manage expectations. Again, if you give me a crew of adults to garden with, everybody is going to get chores, tasks. I'm going to keep everybody on point. I'm going to be doing my thing. I'm going to be monitoring it, and I expect it done to a certain level. I don't have that with kids. I don't. My expectation with kids is make a mess, have fun, plant. If you do the job I asked you to do, wicked. If you don't, also wicked. Right? If the kids are running around being destructive and destroying the garden, I will correct that behavior and tell them why we shouldn't do that. But my expectations on them completing a task severely diminished, and I had to learn that. I had to learn that by gardening with kids. It allows a different environment to connect with our kids. I find there are times we can come across heavy and be like, oh, you should have done this, or oh, why didn't you do that? And oh, we need to do this. We need to go here. We need to, and it's all these things that keep piling up. Where when you're in the garden, again, you're looking at the birds. You're looking at the bugs. You're talking about certain plants. You're talking about like, oh my God, I love those flowers. Yeah, me too. When do you think the tomatoes are going to be ready? You're connecting, but you're not connecting on anything really important, which ironically is the most important way to connect. Okay, so having that different environment is so important for that bonding and development. And that's because it eases the stress. We're in a garden. Yeah, if you're landscaping professionally, you might not want a kid around. I get that. But if you're gardening at home and you have kids, get them out with you. It eases any stresses. You're in a different environment. You're outside. It's sunny. Or it's been raining and your kid's wearing rubber boots and they're splashing in the puddles. That's awesome too. Teaches us patience. Okay? It teaches us where, again, when I'm landscaping with somebody, I have a tendency to tell them once and I really hope they get it. With a kid, I might have to tell them 5 times, and I might have to tell them 5 different ways, okay? And I cannot get frustrated, otherwise I'm going to ruin their enjoyment. I have to find a way to be creative to get my message to a child. And that's really fun. And it allows me to understand things better, because I go, okay, how else can I explain this? Like, what's the best way that this kid will grab it? And it might be using something from... something more contemporary that the kids understand. So I have to now know what they like, so I can relate. So it really allows us to do that. Best way to learn is by teaching. Okay, a lot of times people do things because they're like, well, that's how I was told to do it. But now, if you have to show somebody else, you go, oh, no, no, this is why we don't plant too deep, or this is why I use mulch, or this is why I don't use mulch. But now I'm teaching somebody and I'm learning, and I go, oh, yeah, of course, that makes sense. And I can develop my understanding better by teaching somebody else, and especially kids who are little information sponges. They're just taking everything in. And it gives us a better chance to learn the other way as well, because nobody knows everything. Okay, I've been gardening for a lot of years and I still learn things. So a kid will say, hey, what's this bug? And I go, I have no idea. Let's take a photo, let's Google it, let's Google Lens it, let's get the books, let's learn together. And that's how I'm going to learn. And then I go, oh, that's cool. It is an aphid. And you go, wow, oh my God, look at this about aphids. Look at this about aphids. I thought I knew quite a lot about aphids until I started doing research into predatory bugs. Then I found out, and this is an absolute fact, I wasn't doing this with kids, but it's about learning. There is an aphid out there that can actually photosynthesize.
Whoa.
Yeah, and yet it still eats our plants. You jerk, you're getting food and sugar from the sun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are certain animals, there are certain living, I know plants are alive, but there are certain things that we would consider an animal, not a plant, that can actually photosynthesize. I think there's 3 or 4 bugs.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's the pea aphid is what it's called. It's green, of course, but we're never too old to be like, oh no, I don't need to learn anything new. And kids will hit you with questions that you're like, wasn't expecting that. And sometimes we don't want to question, total not gardening at all. But I remember once, years ago, coming home and there was a peanut in the middle of the floor. And I'm like, why is there a nut in the middle of the floor? And Harry goes, it fell out my nose. My brain said, you should ask him why he had a peanut in his nose. My logic said, just pick that up, dude. Just put that in the compost. Just because if I ask why it's in his nose, he's going to tell me, which I'm positive is going to lead to 10 more questions, and none of them will be to the resolution I like. So we're just going to let that go. Don't put peanuts up your nose. Can you pick that one up? There we go. And also lets us teach by example. So if we are learning to be patient, we're teaching our kid to be patient. If we are learning to be creative, we're teaching our kid to be creative. If we're planting a plant and the kid is watching us, that is how they're going to plant a plant. I've seen it. I've done it with kids where I'm planting and the kid's watching me and then they start trying. Might not be perfect, but they're just trying to copy what I'm doing. And then I can be like, hey, watch. And I go, push it down a little bit more. And they go, oh, and now they're doing that. So it gives us a great way to learn and teach by that connectivity. So one thing I have to address, obviously, you know, I want everything to be like kids in the garden is awesome, and it is. And gardening is awesome because it is, okay? But accidents can happen. I've had injuries in garden. I'm not going to go into like any graphic details, but I've severely cut my thumb before using pruners, not paying attention. Probably should have gone for stitches. I didn't, but it was a very horrible cut. One time I was landscaping, a guy was trimming. I wasn't paying attention. I wore steel toes, but they weren't steel-toed boots. They were steel-toed runners. I stepped back. He wasn't looking, and I took a trimmer straight up the Achilles tendon. Yeah, that hurt. Okay, just blisters, bruises all the way up. Accidents can happen. Okay, we're focused, we're working, there's sharp tools, there's machinery. Now, I'm not scaring anybody here. So what you can do, if you're gardening with the kids, we're not cutting grass at that time. Okay, no power tools come out. Kids aren't going to get a chance to use pruners until maybe we've given them garden snips. And we're like, okay, they're very careful with the scissors. I'm going to let them use pruners. And we graduate to where we're going to. So having age-appropriate tools. You know, you got a 4-year-old, this is a shovel, don't give them a big heavy one that clonk themselves in the head, they might hurt themselves trying to lift it, so you give them what they can use. This is an exact mimic of a shovel I have in my office. Why do I have a shovel in my office? That's a question for another day. But we have shovels, this is an exact mimic, so the kid can copy you, but they're not going to hurt themselves, or they're going to lessen their chance of hurting themselves. The other thing I've learned is that kids will find creative ways to hurt themselves too. Okay, but again, kids getting dirty and getting a scratch or getting a bee sting or whacking themselves in the shin with something, it's not going to kill them. Okay, a little bit of pain, and you get on, you give them a hug, you tell them it's okay, we get back to gardening, and everything will be okay. SPF is our friend. Buy children's SPF for them. We can get outside. We can. It's happened to me. I think it's happened to a lot of people. We start working outside and we're in the shade, and we're like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm in the shade," but the sun moves and we don't, and now we're in full sun, and it can happen like that. And I'm not guilting anybody. I'm not perfect. I have absolutely gardened with Harry before, and we've both come in sunburned. Okay, it's not great. I told my dermatologist. I ratted on myself. He said, "Yep, that kind of stuff happens. Just don't let it happen again. Be more aware." I am now more aware. Okay, again, like I never stand up here and preach about like this is what you have to do with a plant. I've killed a ton of plants. Okay, plants have died under my watch. Of course they have. Bugs have infested under my watch. I have gotten sunburn. I have hurt myself. These things happen. It's part of the glorious tapestry of life. We just learn to maybe make sure it doesn't happen again. Hydrate. Speaking of, I'm going to take my own lesson.
Yeah, we always forget about that. And also, coffee is not hydrating.
It's hydrating enough. Whatever. Kids can be bad for that. They get excited, they get enthusiastic, their little brains get like hyper focused. And I've had to do this numerous times with kids that aren't my kid. When I'm working doing a landscape for somebody, I'm with the kids. I'm like, "Hey guys, water break," and they're like, "No, let's go do." I'm like, "I'm taking a water break. Let's take." We get into the shade. Everybody cools down. Everybody takes a drink for a few minutes. Then we get back to it. Encouraging them to do that, to set that natural habit to hydrate. And all they have to do is be like, "Well, if you cool down and you hydrate, we can play outside longer." And the kids go, okay, I'll get it. I know he's not going to call it quits. And we get there. Gloves. We got tons of fun gardening gloves in all different colors. I only grabbed 3. I think there's like 7 pairs down there.
Cute.
Yeah, I know. Aren't they adorable? Just let your kid pick out the gloves they want. Again, sure, buy them a pair. I mean, we all know what our kids like. But if the kid's with you, let them pick out the pair. If they pick out the tool, if they pick out the gloves, if they pick out the veggie, they're going to feel more of a connection towards it. They're going to feel like, "Oh, these are the gloves I wanted. I wanted these gloves because they've got an alligator on them." And then you'll probably have your kid trying to eat supper in their alligator gloves. And that's totally awesome. But there's gloves. And these gloves, by the way, I just want to say this. They're not flimsy. These are the same material as the adult gloves. They're just smaller. That's all. And they put a cute zebra on it. Didn't put a cute zebra on my gloves.
Nope.
Just saying. You know what? I bet you'd sell more to adults if you did.
Yeah.
If you did. Because you'd be like, "Oh,
like a ladybug.
yeah, exactly."
Yeah.
Why is there no lady?
I know.
Okay, so I grabbed 3.
Yeah.
We got other ones down there. There isn't one red pair with a ladybird on
No,
it.
what is that?
That's a sheep.
Oh, sheep.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling a little sheepish. Can't pull the wool over my eyes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, sorry. It's Father's Day weekend. I'm allowed some dad jokes.
Yes.
Okay. How can you tell if this is a crocodile or an alligator?
How?
It depends whether or not it will see you in a while or see you later.
Later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile. Right, gloves. Supervision and education. And supervision for me, my supervision is not micromanaging. Okay, it's not telling a kid they did something wrong. I've told this story before, but when I worked for the city of St. John in New Brunswick, kids used to come and plant marigolds, and the workers, I was one of them, would hang back, and the kids would do it, and the mayor was there, and the teachers were there, and the news was there, and it was all good. And me and my buddies are all hanging back, leaning against the truck, and then the kids would move, and everybody would move, and everybody would go, and we'd be like, "They're gone?" "Yeah," and we'd go and fix it. Okay, and the reason for that, as adults, we don't like doing something and having somebody stand there being like, "No, that's wrong, that's wrong." It doesn't really make you feel good. Now, as an adult, I would like somebody to be like, "Hey, can I show you a different way to do that?" But as kids, just let them do it, let them feel good about it, and just fix it after. Okay, just supervise. Make sure they're not hurting themselves. Make sure they're not damaging the garden. Make sure that they're enjoying it, and then let them get on with it. Okay, if the kid is like, spraying something that they shouldn't be spraying, but it's causing no problem, so what? If they're digging and you look and they're just digging a huge hole, but they're not damaging any plants or digging seeds or plants out, let them dig a hole. You can always just take a rake and backfill it. Okay, they're having fun. They're exploring, they're looking for worms, and now you can teach them what a worm is and why it's important. So when I say supervision, I keep an eye on them to make sure that they're safe and they're not hurt in the garden, but also so I can get a chance to educate them. Like, oh my God, look at that worm. Like, hey, do you know why worms are cool? I was like, they eat soil and they poop out better soil. They go, what? And then they pick it up and we look at it, and then I go, but it likes to be underground. We put it back underground, we put some soil on it. Now the kids have learned about worms. So that is my approach when I'm working with kids on that element. Now, I also want to bring up the other thing I love doing is I love gardening with Jimmy. And Jimmy's my dog. He's Border Collie, Great Pyrenees. If I go out in the garden, Jimmy's with me.
That's not Jimmy, by the way.
No, that's not Jimmy. Jimmy would not pose for a photo like that at all. Jimmy is very well trained. He knows what he's doing, but he is certainly not the kind of dog who'll be like, oh, look at me, with gloves in my mouth. He's Border Collie, Great Pyrenees.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he loves to be outside. He's energetic, but he's well trained, as in I can be in my front garden with no fence, and Jimmy will be in the front yard with me, and he won't wander off down the street. He won't wander into the street. He won't run up to another dog. He's chill in his spot. And it's good because, you know, Harry now, he's a young man. He's 17. He's got his own life. He does help with the garden. Him and Dominic cleaned my garden. Dominic's his bestie. I love Dom. They cleaned my garden the other day. Did an amazing job too. Credit where credit is due. They absolutely killed it. They cut the grass, they trimmed, and they weeded. Did everything. And when they were done, they even passed the blower and left everything clean.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 10 out of 10. The boys did amazing. I lost my train of thought there because it's rare that I ever give Harry a proper shout out. I'm always teasing him.
Jimmy.
Yeah, but exactly, yeah. So Harry, he's a young man now. You know, he's got his own things and he wants to be with his friends and his peers, and absolutely he should be. Jenny is off working and doing a shoot, and I need to be in the garden. I want the companionship. I want somebody there. It's Jimmy. And Jimmy comes out with me, and spending that time with Jimmy is awesome for Jimmy and for me. Okay, I sit down for a water break, and I'll just sit and I'll just scratch Jimmy's head. I don't care if he's getting dirty. He'll get up and go roll in the grass. So I don't care if my hand's a little dirty and scratch his head. He doesn't care, and we're bonding, and that's good for my mental health, and it's probably good for his too. Teaches dogs good habits. If your dog is a digger and you're gardening and they dig, you can catch that behavior immediately. You're not coming out and looking at holes all over your garden. You can be like, no, they stop digging, you give them a treat and you move on. Playtime is key, just like with kids. Okay, the dog might be like, all right, well, I'm pretty bored now. Probably gonna have a stick in your garden. If not, cut one off the tree. Okay, and now you've got playtime. Prune and fetch, I do that with Jimmy all the time. Prune a tree, toss the branch, and Jimmy's like, hell yeah! And he runs, and he brings it back. I've already got another branch, and I throw it the other way. And Jimmy is loving it, because now he's got a collection of sticks, and we're playing and whatnot. So, prune and fetch, that's the game I invented. Again, encourage and teach good behaviors. So, Jimmy knows to stay. When we're in the front garden, stay. You're not allowed into the street. And he gets up, I'm right there, stay, and he's looking at me like, you're a jerk, I want to go, but we learn together. It's teaching me how to teach my dog. It encourages nurturing. Okay, I know people, have you ever seen people put the leash on their cat and garden with their cat?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's great. And the cats, at first, they're like, oh, I don't like this. But then the cat's like, oh, well, I can see my favorite person. And then that person's coming over and petting me. Yeah. And we learn to nurture the garden. We learn to spend that time with our animals.
I love when they come to the garden center, too.
Oh, it's the best.
Like, there's a cat that comes in on a leash all the time, and I just love it.
Yeah, the other day, Thursday night, there was a parrot.
A parrot at Golden Acre?
Yeah, oh my God. So their name is Q, and he is adorable. And the woman, I've met her a couple of times, and she's like, he's in a cuddly mood today. And he was on my hand, and she's like, just bring him in. And I brought him in, and he nestled.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but then he got very obsessed with this and started plucking hairs out. And I was like,
not happening.
And she's like, it's okay, he only plucks gray hairs. I'm like, that's Not good. That's bad. Have you seen how many grays I've got? It's exercise for the dog, okay? And dogs, especially a dog like Jimmy, he's border collie. He is extremely intelligent. So working in the garden with him, it's not just physical exercise; it's mental exercise because he never knows what we're doing. I'm cleaning up and I find a ball he lost in the winter. Boom, that goes across the garden. Now he's got that to play with. Then I throw a stick and he's playing with that. The smell's coming up. There's everything happening and he's engaging with all of it. And that's his sensory development. Jimmy will be lying there not paying any attention. I start turning the beds and he's over smelling. I start adding bone meal, blood meal, manure, and he's like, oh, hell's yeah, I'm smelling this, and I'm going to roll in it. And I go, excellent, and now we're going to the groomers. So it's a win-win. It gives a dog, apparently, I looked this one up because I wanted to make sure, but it actually allows a dog a sense of security. Because a lot of times we're either in our homes with our pets, and again, I know I'm different because of the gardening I've done and whatnot, but a lot of times people are in the house with their pets, or they take their pets for a walk, or they let their pet into the yard, but they're not with them in the yard. When the dog is in the yard with you, it suddenly realizes that, oh, this is all my property, okay? And a lot of times people have dogs for companionship, but also for security, right? One night we heard a bang, and Jenny and I looked and we're like, 99% sure that was outside, but it was very close. And we kind of look at each other, and I'm like, what was that? And Jimmy is off the bed, barking his head off, running downstairs as a big dog. And I was like, yeah, built-in home alarm. Anybody who, if they were, like, it was outside, by the way, there was nothing nefarious happening. And if I did think there was something nefarious, I would rather take the hit than my doggo. Yeah. Even though Jimmy would rather take the hit than the spare human, which I am, because he loves Jenny more than me. I think I'm just the spare human. And again, it gives us that companionship, okay? Like I said, when I'm gardening, I don't mind gardening alone at all. At all. I like it. My brain turns off. I can meditate, and I can just be aware of what I'm doing. But I'd be disingenuous if I said I didn't like a buddy in the garden, and that's where Jimmy comes in. And I like hanging around with them. So, things I have learned, and I'll show this one too. This is on the PowerPoint. That's friends of mine years ago, and that's their kids. And you can see both of them insisted on helping me water with the watering can. Okay, and that's what it's all about. Kids are curious. They really are curious. They want to know what you're doing and why you're doing it, and can they help, and what's going on. One time my dad was planting and I helped him, and by helping him it means I followed him and I was trying to copy him, and everything he planted I pulled out. We learned, he didn't get mad, he didn't yell, he kind of laughed about it, and we went back to the beginning and he showed me what he was doing and we did it together again. My dad had some incredible patience with that, but they're curious and they're tactile learners. Kids like to touch, they like to smell, they like to experience it. I'm not going to knock schools at all. Education is important, blah, blah, blah. That's it. But as a kid, I learned better, and I know Harry did, and I know a lot of kids do, by being and experiencing and feeling it and having all of your senses involved, as opposed to sitting in a class and just hearing something from a book. That is important. Absolutely, that's university, it's school skills, it's sitting at my desk skills. But you need a mix of both. You got to get them outside. You got to get them involved. That's why I love doing the field trips with the kids.
Yeah, there's lots of teachers that come in and they get like all the seeds and they actually plant with the kids, and like they always love it.
Yeah, kids love it. They love it. How many kids grow sunflowers?
Yeah.
Right? That's why most kids know what a sunflower seed is. They eat them, they plant them, they instantly recognizable.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the first flowers a kid can recognize is the sunflower for good reason.
Yeah.
Yep, it's fantastic. Kids don't know how to fail. And what I mean by that is kids only know how to fail because they do something and it doesn't work. But until that happens, they don't know that it doesn't work. They're trying it. Their brain doesn't have the experience, the wisdom. I can look at something that I've never done now and give a good bet on whether or not it's going to work because of all of my experience. They don't have that. So they're willing to try and do anything, and it's so refreshing. Because they're like, well, I don't know why we can't do that. And you're like, I also don't know why. Let's do it. And in my head, I may know why, but I'm not going to tell them that because I want them to learn themselves. Okay, I want them to experience it. Enthusiasm is contagious. I've been gardening before and I'm tired, sore, sun's beaten down, and kids come and they want to help, and you go, all right, I'm invigorated because now I got somebody to talk to and I got somebody to work with and play with and teach. So their enthusiasm can give us that lift. Our enthusiasm can give them the lift. So it is a contagious thing. Pets become great garden buddies. Okay, I love gardening with Jimmy. He makes me happy. Playtime is essential. Okay, let the kids play. Okay, let the dogs play. We don't have to focus on it. It doesn't have to become that chore. It doesn't have to be, I have to get this done. We've brought the kids out. We can't expect them to sit there and carefully plant every seed. They're going to want to put the seeds down and run and chase a butterfly. Okay, they're going to want to and be like, oh my God, look at that flower, look at that berry. They're going to want to do that, and that is an essential part of them being in the garden. We want to foster that because I showed those pictures of me at the beginning at the age of 2. Lifetime habits can be formed, and they absolutely can. I learned gardening from school. I learned gardening by working with a garden expert, a master gardener. He taught me so much. I learned more from him than I did at school. Again, tactile learning. Okay, absolutely. School gave me what I needed. He taught me more than anything else. But my dad taught me more than that. And now, Dad may not have known all of this stuff. Great shout out for Father's Day too.
Yeah, right?
Dad might not have known everything. He wasn't a gardener, he was an electrician, but he loved his garden. And he passed that on to me. And with that, that was why when I started gardening, I knew the difference between a bee and a wasp. I knew what a fern was and what a geranium was. I didn't know all the plants I know now, but I had a good, solid background on it. I knew how to grow food. I knew that we needed manure and compost. Didn't really know the science behind it, but I knew it was there. And those are the memories. Okay, those are the memories that we have forever. And I know Harry still talks about some of the gardening things he did. Kids remember that. They love it. They go, oh, I remember being out there. I remember that flower. I remember that flower pot I did. I remember growing spinach for my mum, picking her dandelions. So these are core memories that we're instilling, and they're healthy, good core memories. So I hope you get a chance to get out. I don't care if it's raining. That's why we have raincoats and rubber boots and gloves. Okay? Ain't nothing wrong with making mud. Ain't nothing wrong with having some fun in the garden when it's raining or when it's sunny or anything else. So I really hope you get in the garden with your kids. I hope it's inspired you a little bit. I hope you're all having fun. And yeah, enjoy it. That's what it's all about. It seems like yesterday that I was gardening with Harry, and now he's 17 and he's a young man. And I couldn't be prouder of him. Couldn't be prouder of him. He's a wonderful, wonderful kid. He's a wonderful human. He's got a huge heart and he's amazing. But I'll always remember, those are core memories for me, gardening with him, and I hope they're core memories for him. So I hope you guys have fun. I hope you have an amazing Saturday. If there are any questions, I'm standing here.
Well, we had Brad's Garage join us on Instagram and said, shout out to all the gardening dads. Yeah.
Shout out. Hold on. I'm going to go off camera for a second. I'm coming back. A term I just learned recently is plant daddy. So this was I hope it showed up properly, but this was a Father's Day gift for me as a plant dad from Brandy, and it is absolutely going to get a place in our studio here.
What is a plant dad?
A plant dad is a noun. It is a father of a substantial number of plants who care for them deeply as if they were his very own children. That is the definition of a plant dad. So I was very touched by that, and I'm glad I got it. So thank you, Brad's Garage, for mentioning that so I could mention this.
Yes. We have one question, and then before we go, it's by Ashley B. over on our website, goldenacre.ca. Thanks for joining us today. Her question was, after all the gardening is done, how do you handle disappointment? So whether plants get damaged by weather, or if they don't grow.
Yeah, great question. If anybody didn't hear that, how do you handle disappointment? Because I touched on that. Kids don't know how to fail. But here's the thing. They're going to fail. Okay, I don't know anybody in life who hasn't had to experience failure of something. And how I handled that is really easy. We talk about it, we talk about why it didn't work, and then we talk about what did work. And we focus on the positives, and we focus on it. Doesn't matter if nothing worked, we talk about the positive time we had out there together. We talk about what we learned, what we're going to do different next year. Are we going to try to do something indoors? Maybe we should have started the seeds inside because there wasn't enough time for them to grow outside. So maybe next year we need to learn about seeding, and we can start with microgreens. Okay, and we focus on the positives. We validate that sad feeling, like, oh, I really wanted that flower, and we go, yeah, that really sucked. Like that's sad. But you know what? We can learn from this, and we can try again next year. And that's what we do, because in life, in anything, this week I've failed at something. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I guarantee I messed something up. Oh, there you go. Somebody put an order in, I didn't get to it, I read it wrong, and I put in the wrong order, and I had to fix that, okay? I fail at this age. I still fail. A few years ago, I'll give a gardening example. This was a few years ago. We had a big tree when we moved into the place. Unfortunately, the people before us hadn't looked after it. It was riddled with birch leaf miner. We had to bring it down. Now, that tree used to cast a great shadow on our deck, so everything I planted on the deck was always begonias, impatiens and whatnot, and they thrived. They loved it. We cut the tree down. That year, I went shopping, and everything on my deck that I planted was a shade-loving plant. They didn't do great because I had no more shade. That was a plant fail. Okay, did I beat myself up? No, I laughed my ass off. I was like, oh my God, I have told people about that. I teach this, and I just made that mistake. And I was like, garden fail. The next year, I put different plants in there. So that is what we do. We foster it. We let them know it's okay to fail. Hey, that one didn't work. Let's try something different next year. Or, yeah, you really wanted that begonia, but that was too sunny. Why don't we put the begonias over there next year? Or if you're looking at it and it's failing, but it's savable, we fix it then and we learn. So we validate, we let them learn that feeling, but then we nurture and encourage by giving them something else. We look at the positives, we look at what they did successfully, and we plan for the future for more success. And it's all part and parcel of learning. We're still doing that as gardeners, expert gardeners, still have fails and mistakes. The best gardeners are the ones who go, all right, well, now I know. We dust our hands off and we try something new, and that's it.
What a great way to end.
All right. Have a great Saturday, everybody. We'll see you next week. Bye now.